Welcome to the TMZ Podcast. I am Eric Colley.
And I'm Derek here.
We are in for Charlie and Charlie today.
This is a rare combo.
Yeah.
You don't often see the music guy and the lawyer running the TMZ Podcast, but it's been a busy day in the newsroom. We got a lot of big news stories breaking, so Charlie Neff is out there. Charlie Cotton is in Australia right now with his family.
Right now.
He's really down under, so we're coming in to fill in, and we've got a 3-pack of, I'd say, legal stories.
Yeah, you are perfect for this.
So you got to put me on the stage. We'll start with what's going on in the Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds saga. Then we'll move over to new sort of accusations and new claims in the Diddy criminal case. We haven't seen this. We've seen a lot of Tony Busby filing civil suits, but not as much movement in the criminal case.
And the timeline is going further back on the crimes.
Yes, the timeline has moved. And then we'll finish up with what does Kevin Costner's ex getting engaged mean for Kevin Costner's wallet?
Yeah.
We'll get into it. Let's start with Blake Lively. So Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds have now filed a document. There's not much to it, I'll be honest. It is a one-page document, but what they did indicate is that they plan to file a motion to dismiss Justin Baldoni's bombshell $400 million lawsuit. So you remember, she filed a lawsuit first. She filed, I think it was around $250 million lawsuit against Justin Baldoni. They're both alleging these smear campaigns back and forth. He responded and said, I've got all these receipts. And he dumped this massive lawsuit through his attorney.
She also alleged sexual harassment.
Yes, she alleged sexual harassment against Baldoni, and he said, look, here are all the text messages. Here is the whole arc of our relationship. There's no sexual harassment here. His attorney, Brian Friedman, has been feeding the media snippets, sort of the audio from
a text
one of the
here,
scenes,
a voice note there.
That's right. And he's releasing things. I talked about this with Charlie a couple days ago. He's releasing things that aren't entirely flattering to him. They are both. They're just like, here's everything.
Which makes it seem more honest. I think that has kind of helped him because people see like the voice note that was 6.5 minutes long, where at the end he's like, oh, I know you've got a baby on your boob right now.
Yes.
It's cringy and creepy and weird. Is it sexual harassment? A lot of people don't think it is. It's just he's an awkward, weird dude. But by not trying to paint himself as this huge, great, perfect hero, it makes her look worse.
I completely agree. He doesn't look like he's cherry picking. He looks like, here's all the blemishes. I'm a little weird. I'm a little cringy. I left a long voice note to a married woman. I said I wanted all of her. I said she's got a kid on her boob. Yeah, I'm weird, but I'm not a sexual harasser.
He wasn't saying like he wanted to hook up with her. He wasn't calling her like weird derogatory names or anything. He was just awkward.
He's just awkward. So now Blake and Ryan are saying, you know what? We should throw his whole lawsuit out. And they're going to file a motion to dismiss. They haven't laid out their arguments yet. What I imagine it will be is, what's the cause of action here? Like, what are you suing me for? A smear campaign is not a claim you can bring against someone unless it's true falsehoods.
What's the actual legal standing on that?
I've been really wondering.
You said bad things about me. Like, it's not.
Doesn't feel like defamation.
He's not
creepy.
suing for, was it libel or slander? Which one's print? Which one's
print? Would be libel, slander, spoken.
But it's not that.
It doesn't feel like that, because calling someone creepy, or even, and this will
saying he made me uncomfortable.
Yeah, made me uncomfortable. That's her subjective feeling about how he made her feel. Saying he's a creepy guy. These are opinions. Those are not the types of things that hold a defamation suit. They really don't. Some people find it surprising if you say like, "Oh man, I think you're racist." That's an opinion. It is. It truly is. You have to state a fact that is demonstrably false to win a defamation claim, and then you have to prove that it was damaging to someone's reputation. There are causes. It's a cause of action. It's something you have to prove in court, and there are elements. And I don't see them here. So I do think that the motion to dismiss will be very interesting to see. What is it that you're suing me for, Justin Baldoni? I understand we don't like each other, but that's not for the courts to decide.
It's like playground fighting almost. Like, you said this, well, you did that.
Yes.
But do you think Ryan and Blake wanting to get him dismissed, because they haven't announced they're dismissing their suit, right?
No, definitely not.
But don't you think they just want this to go away at this point? Because now it's damaging them PR-wise.
And they have a lot more to lose, frankly.
Absolutely.
I mean, them getting bruised, he's got, Ryan Reynolds is an institution, right? He's a guy who needs a brand that is not as bruised, basically, and not bumped up and cut up in the course of litigation.
He's being likable and snarky, and the whole Ryan Reynolds thing. If people stop liking him,
yes,
then that's his career.
Yeah. Now, Justin Baldoni, I think, on the other hand, it's a little bit binary. Either he survives this and maybe has a career, or doesn't and drifts into obscurity. So he has kind of less to lose by filing this lawsuit and keeping it going. What I think will happen is when you file a motion to dismiss, if it gains traction, you sort of argue it before the judge, and it looks like they're leaning towards throwing your lawsuit out. That gives you leverage to say, hey, should we just settle? Like, I don't know what the judge is going to do, but he's leaning towards my direction. There's a lot of money at stake. We can all just move on with our careers. And I do think this has to go there, because the more time that things just leak out, there's going to be a lot of footage, a lot of text messages. It's just going to get nastier and nastier.
And if we're just talking purely career, it would be so much better, I think, for Justin Baldoni for this to go away now, because there's been nothing so damaging that nobody will ever work with him again because of it.
I agree.
And he is significantly more famous now. Like, much more people know who he is and would be more interested in what he's going to do next. But the longer this drags on, the more he just becomes the Blake Lively lawsuit guy.
Yes.
And if that's all you are, then you don't have a career.
I completely agree. They got to do something constructive here. Now, Blake and Ryan are also taking a page out of the Baldoni book a little bit, because they're now taking a family vacation to recharge during this Justin Baldoni war. Who just did this? That we've been pitching photos of him in the newsroom, Justin Baldoni. And
isn't he still like in Hawaii or something?
Yeah, shirtless, riding some waves.
Taking pictures at the grocery store.
And Harvey was hammering the point that perception's everything, you know? And he looked happy with his family. He was smiling. He didn't look like a sexual harasser. And that helps his public image. In the same sense, Blake and Ryan are going to be out there with their little toe heads, and they're going to look like the picture of family bliss. Maybe that helps resurrect her mean girl reputation that she's acquiring, or bullying reputation that he's acquiring. So this will be interesting. I'm sure we're going to see pictures.
Next Monday, or on Monday, the judge will decide, right?
That's
about
right.
Throwing it out.
I think no. They're going to have to file papers for the
but if not,
dismiss, and then they'll have a hearing.
If it's not dismissed, this trial's not until March of next year.
Exactly. And
we got a long way to go on
this. A long way to go. So stay tuned on that. The next thing that's going on is what's up with Diddy. So Diddy's criminal case is dragging on. There's a lot of sideshows that are going on with the government tossing his cell and gathering evidence. And Diddy's lawyer, Mark Agnifilo, has been really hammering that the only victim mentioned in the first indictment is victim number one, who everyone has sort of pieced together is Cassie.
We know it's Cassie.
Everyone has sort of said as much without saying as much. Anonymous in the indictment, but that's who it is based on the description.
They referenced the hallway beating video. We know that's Cassie. We know that's who this is.
That's right. And he's always maintained, look, we had a rocky relationship, but this was an intimate, consensual relationship. Relationships have ups and downs. It is certainly not a large conspiracy involving sex trafficking or racketeering. So this is the government's showing how weak its case is by only pointing to one victim who publicly I had a relationship with. Now the government has filed what's called a superseding indictment, which is just a new indictment. And what they do is they take the old indictment and they add little things. They've added 2 new victims. And this is a huge
victims
deal.
2 and 3. They don't have names. We don't know who this is.
There's not much else in there. They've said that they've put them into the charge about transportation for sex trafficking purposes, basically transportation for prostitution to engage in commercial acts. And they say that these 2 other female victims, they do identify them as female, were lured into this web of Diddy's sex parties, and they were transported across state lines. This is a federal suit, and you need to have sort of crossing state lines. And now they have 2 other victims. This is really going to undercut Diddy's whole argument, if it's true.
Well, he says that these were, and we don't know who the women are, but they do refer to them as they were girlfriends, not prostitutes.
Yes.
So it's somebody he dated, apparently, and also these new complaints with Cassie, the trafficking allegations went back to 2008. These victims 2 and 3 now push it back to 2004.
That's right. So they've taken a broader time horizon. In that sense, I think that's helpful to Diddy in some ways, because they looked at 2008 to 2024, and apparently all the feds could find was Cassie to put in their indictment. Then they opened the window up a little bit. They opened the aperture and go back to 2004. It stands to reason, they don't say this explicitly, that those 2 victims relate to time periods between 2004 and 2008, because that time period changing and adding them seems to indicate that they're from the past. Look, they'll have to deal with statute of limitations issues and all that kind of stuff.
Do you think these will be the last 2 victims added to this? It seems like more and more will start to come out as we get closer to the trial.
I think that's right. I think this is, people think that once an indictment is filed, that's it. The feds still are conducting an active investigation. They've been saying this in court all the time. They're like, we need Diddy locked up because we don't want him to disrupt and intimidate our witnesses as we develop a stronger and stronger case against him. And this is what they're talking about. They're going to go into court and say, we found 2 more people that we put into our indictment, And Diddy's still locked up. We can't, he's dangerous to our investigation. He could sort of harm the witnesses or try to pay them off or whatever. So this is a win for the government. Not a win. They haven't proven anything, but it helps defeat Agnifalo's argument that, look, they've been investigating me and all they've come up with is Cassie.
Right. Yeah.
So
it's just a bad relationship, and this is expanding the scope of what they're saying with the trafficking. And like, look, this involved multiple women over a 20-year period. It will just get bigger and bigger. And the trial starts in May?
Yeah, the trial is in May, and so they're going to have to get their ducks in a row before then. At some point, you do have to just bring your case, and you have to assemble your witnesses and go with what you have. I do think, I'll say one last point, I think 3 victims for what they've described as a 20-year sort of sex trafficking conspiracy does seem light. I would expect a complaint like this to have 20 victims or something that they've really assembled over the years.
And, obviously a huge part of this has been the freak-offs, the big parties where Diddy would have people come over and would have all these women and just they would be just basically sexual objects to be used by his guests and by himself. If these freak-offs went on for 20-plus years with all these celebrities at all these locations, it has to have been more than 3 women.
It just has to. There's a long passage of time. So I think they'll see this as, wow, this is really desperate. They've only gotten to 3 after all this time.
Just going to be more coming.
That's right.
Because also, if you're afraid that Diddy is going to intimidate the witnesses, and by his attorney saying that these are just ex-girlfriends, it seems like they know who the women are, or at least have some suspicion who they are. That maybe you don't want to have a whole bunch of people get on the lawsuit right away because that gives Diddy more time. They're saying he's intimidating them. You don't want people having months to be intimidated.
Yeah, you want to protect them. And you want to protect your case as much as possible. Now,
so do you think like in the weeks, like maybe a week or 2 before this May 5th trial, they can add?
Yes.
Like, how long can they just keep adding victims?
There'll be a deadline by which you have to file your last indictment. And then, because everyone needs a chance to prepare for trial, right? I mean, Diddy, remember, is a defendant, and he deserves the opportunity to sort of confront his witnesses. That's constitutional. He deserves to know who are the people saying the bad things, and I'd like to cross-examine them. So they do have to close the universe at some point, but
do you know what the date for that is? Because
I don't know the exact date for that, but if the trial's in May, it can't be, a month before.
It has to be more than that.
Yes.
So do you think in the next month or 2 that we're going to see maybe 20 more people added to this, more victims?
It's possible. I think it's unlikely if they've only gotten to 3 at this point. All right, let's get to our last story, which is Kevin Costner's ex, Christine Baumgartner, got engaged.
Getting married. Congratulations.
That's right. Congratulations to her boyfriend of over a year, who is Josh Connor. You may remember him as one of Kevin Costner's old friends.
Neighbor, yeah. And right after the separation, we saw Christine and Josh going to Hawaii together.
Yes, there was immediate speculation. Oh, is he doing?
And they're like, no, we're just friends consoling each other in a difficult moment. No, now he's proposed. They are getting married. And the question is, what does this mean financially for Kevin Costner if his ex, who he had this very contentious battle over the prenup and over money, what does this mean for him?
Yeah.
It means nothing.
Means nothing. Not going to affect his wallet. A lot of times when your ex gets remarried, it cuts off your spousal support obligations because now they've got a new spouse. You no longer need to support them as a spouse, and the law and most settlement agreements say you no longer have to pay this person. They now have a new husband to lean on, and your obligations are over. Didn't work that way. They had, remember, a premarital agreement where Kevin made some payments. I think he made $1.5 million payment when they divorced, when he was trying to enforce.
Just a lump sum, and she does not have to return that.
Doesn't have to return that. That's her money. He also has child support obligations of $63,000 a month. Those don't change at all.
No.
You still need to support your children when your ex
for that, his children, he has 3 children with her. They are 17, 15, and 14. So within 4 years, all of those kids will age out of child support.
That's right. They'll roll off at 18.
And the oldest will be 18 probably this year if they're 17 right now. And he also bought her a house, put down the down payment on a house, and paid all the insurance and stuff. That is a done deal. That's already happened. There's nothing else to happen there. The question is, does Josh Connor move into that house with Christine?
Amazing.
Or does she move in with him, or do they get a new house together?
We'll have to see. He's also a very rich guy. Maybe she moves in with him, but the plot thickens.
If you're Kevin Costner and your neighbor goes on vacation with your estranged wife that you're having this difficult, horrible divorce with, then gets married, and then moves into the house that you bought for her.
It's pretty beautiful. You come over to borrow some sugar, and you're Kevin Costner.
Because they were
Josh
neighbors.
Comes to the door in a robe. It's pretty beautiful.
Geez, it's crazy.
But won't impact him financially. All right, let's go to some questions or some comments from readers. Let's take a look. So on the Blake Lively story, Paula says, Blake started it. That's true, but man,
is true. After It Ends With Us was coming out, she's the one that started the stories that everything was not copacetic on set.
Right. And Justin was just defending himself, so now they're going to dismiss his lawsuit or move to dismiss it. This is just so petty. I don't really care who started it at this point. I just want them all to move on. David says this is like high school drama fight with Blake and Justin. Exactly. This doesn't feel like it should be in a courtroom. It should be in a lunchroom. And you should just sort of mean girl it and maybe throw some food in.
I like this last comment that just says in quotes, "This just in on another episode of Gossip Girl."
I love it.
That comment is from Justin.
Oh, Baldoni, you on the chat? I love that. And then we got a random comment from Eminem. Says, "Thank you, Derek, for bringing all the knowledge." Oh, Eminem.
Oh, thanks, Eminem. We're gonna be hearing about this all day.
That stands for my mom and Mary. Nice
your mom and your
compliment.
Wife. No, they would never say something nice like that about you.
This is true. All right, that'll do it for us. We will see you next time. Have a great weekend.